Hello everyone. I'm glad to welcome you on the video lesson about impact modeling. My name is Isnaur Khazouf and I'm from Russia. And today we will talk about what is impact modeling and why we need it. I would also like to mention that this video lesson is recorded in frame of the project Mentoring for Women Empowerment implemented by MentorHub. Yeah, and today we will talk about three things. We will talk about theory of change. We will try to figure out what's that and how it is connected with impact modeling. After that, we will talk about impact chain model or impact stairs model. And also we will try to go through questions that you need to ask yourself if you want to develop impact model for your organization or program or project. So let's start from theory of change. I wouldn't like to go really deep in this theory because it has a lot of books written about, and you can investigate by your own. But in this video lesson, what you need to know is simple idea of theory of change, that this is a set of assumptions that explains to you many steps that lead to the long-term goal. And also it shows you connections between the program activities and outcomes that occur each step when you implement this program. It was invented by Carol Weiss in 1995. How it looks like. It looks like a map, like visualized map that explains you connections between your activities, your interventions, and final goal that you will achieve if you will implement certain activities or interventions. Let's look at it more detailed. More detailed version would look like this. This is this slide shows you main elements of this pathway in change process. So let's look at each of them. What is intervention? Intervention is a simple single activity or a complex of activities that you do in order to create change or to create outcomes. And everything in the pathway of theory of change is a precondition to the long-term goal. And another important part is indicators that shows that this or that precondition will happen or will take place. And also you cannot see it on this map, but all these arrows, they explain different assumptions which are connections between the preconditions for long-term change that occur on every step of your development when you implement theory of change in your organization. Shortly speaking, if you want to achieve long-term outcome, you need to do basically different interventions, and you also should define preconditions that will lead to long-term outcome. And also you should think of indicators that will allow you to judge if this or that precondition is there. Here is one example. You should look on it from the left to the right. And on the left, you see different kind of interventions that team of a program creating. Like they bring knowledge, they provide learning, they build relationships through their activities. And after that, they create one more set of preconditions that as a part of the longer chain of different preconditions, they lead to each other. For instance, if you do capacity building for a certain target group, if you improve family engagement of these families, it leads to individual transformation, which leads to improved social connections, which also leads to improving of incomes and assets of these people. And as a final long-term outcome, it can lead to improved children health and their readiness to learn. But that's a rough explanation of theory of change. If you want to develop it, there are 6 questions that help you. First, you ask if you want to do it with your team to develop theory of change of your program. You can, for instance, this is one model of questions that you should ask yourself. You can start from asking, whom do you want to help? Which target group situation you want to change, whom you want to influence. And then you think of value that you create for this target group. And then you think about timing, in which time scale you want to achieve these outcomes that you defined. And then you think about methods or activities that you will provide to achieve these outcomes. It also helps if you think of context in which these activities or interventions will happen. So you think about what circumstances can influence this. And in the end, you should ask yourself a simple question: why is your theory of change is realistic? Actually, it should always be synchronized with reality, with real resources that are available, with real needs of your target group. And these 6 questions can be good if you want to begin to develop theory of change for your organization or certain program. So let's look at this slide that tells us about what is theory of change and what it is not. So first of all, it is visualization. It helps you to focus on desired picture of future, and to look at it, to see it more clearly. Probably it is a set of assumptions and mental representations about how the situation might develop in future. And it is also thought activity approach that helps you to identify key conditions and key intermediate results on the way to desired change. And it is also common action method or method of joint activity that stimulates the formation of flexible and open logic for complex processes that you want to develop within your organization. And it is also structured map. It is very similar to first one, like visualization, but structured map means that it shows you very good links between your actions and outcomes that it creates, or results that it creates if you do them. And it is also a process tool that helps you to organize process of individual and collective thinking or action. What it is not, of course, it is not absolute truth. If you develop theory of change, it doesn't mean it will really work like this way. It is still can have, you can come to different outcomes in the end. You will never know before you try. And it is not recipe against uncertainty. There always be uncertain situation, and doesn't matter how careful will be theory of change developed, there always will be space for uncertainty. And it is substitute for the impact chain or logical framework, which is more conservative planning tool. I will tell you about it in the next slides. And impact modeling is coming, actually, in my opinion, parallel to theory of change. It has a lot of similarities, but impact modeling seems for me more simple, and theory of change is more broad and wide and more theoretical, let's say. But what is impact modeling? Or impact modeling usually represented by impact chain picture or impact stairs picture. Also, it is, you can find in classical literature that it is called logical framework. But this is basically visual representation of relationship between resources that you put in to something, some program or organization, and its expected results, how this connection happens between invested resources and outcomes that you get. So if we visualize it, it looks like this, from left to the right. You put some resources, you make activities on that resources, and after that activities, you get different outputs. And this can be number of people participated in your activities, for example. And if the people participate in that activities, they get some outcomes or some changes in their capacities or abilities, skills or knowledge. And it leads to impact. But on the right square here, you can see dead weight. Dead weight, what is dead weight? It is definition used to explain or to consider things that would have happened anyway, even if your program or organization wouldn't be there with your intervention. And usually this is used when you do impact measurement or evaluation of certain organization or program. Yeah, as I said, every step of impact chain helps us to understand the relationship between resources that we invest in the activities of organization and total outcome that we get, or impact that we will get after finalizing the program, or after 1, 2, 3 years when we implement the program. And what's the difference between theory of change and let's say and theory and impact chain? In simple words, it is, again, as I said, impact chain is narrow and practical view of the relationship between program contributions and expected results, and theory of change is a process of planning social change from initial assumptions to long-term goal. And there is no clear line between them. Sometimes each of them are having their kind of supporting each other in lots of characteristics. Yes. And another question, why you may need impact chain modeling in your context, in what you are doing. I think 3 reasons can be there if you ask yourself this question. So first of all, it helps you to manage and control impact in order to maximize it and optimize expenses that you have to achieve this impact that you make to achieve this impact. And it also helps you to manage investments, because usually if you do something, there are always investors. I mean, broader sense of this word, not just economic sense. Investor can be a state government who gives you grants. It can be donators. It can be impact investors, anyone else who puts money into your program or organization. And if you have impact chain, it is much easier to manage these investments and to show to your investors in which stage you are at the moment, and to be more transparent with them. Also, it helps to build organizational sustainability, because everyone in your organization, if they see impact chain of each contribution that they do to each outcome that it leads, it helps you also to keep organization or your team more aware or more motivated more inspired. At least it happens in my experience in our organization when we develop the impact chain. It helped us this way. So how it looks like in real, I will show you now one example of school children. Problem, imagine that there is a school, this is a real project, where they have problem of bullying and conflicts in school environment. And if you want to develop impact model for this project, it could look this way. If we will go backwards from impact that we want to create to this level of resources that we need to create this impact. First, I would like to achieve this impact, that families and friends of school children, they are more open and respectful towards people from other cultures. And in order to achieve this impact, this broader change in their lives, I take one target group, like students in grade 6 or 7, and I want them to become more united and support each other in the class. In order to make them more united and supportive, they need to change their attitudes toward each other, and they should begin to involve excluded classmates in communication and their activities. And there are different things that should change in their behavior in order that they become more united and supportive, that I can assume so. But how I will let them be more engaging each other, involving each other, I think they need to develop a sense of empathy. They should learn tools of effective communication and few other things they need to learn. They need to get this knowledge and skills and abilities. But in order that they get it, certain number of the school children from 6th or 7th grades, they should get what I offer in the educational program. And when I offer it, they should also take part in it. And in order that they take part in it, I need to organize these activities and conduct it in September, October, November, let's say. And in order to implement these activities, we need to have this number of financial resources, this number of people in a team, certain competences in a team, and this amount of time we need to spend on that. Yeah, so that's how it looks like if we take real example. So as you can see, it looks like the stairs. On first step, if we want to develop impact model in our organization, we think of societal changes. What do we want to change on societal level? Then we take one target group which is involved in this problem context, and we assume that if we work with this target group, we will have bigger impact on societal level. And then we try to change, we say that we will change life situation of this target group in this way. And in order to change it in this way, we would like to change their behavior. We think that if they would behave like this, then their life situation would change. In order that they change their behavior, they should get new skills, new abilities, new knowledge. And we should also define all the skills, knowledge, abilities, what are they? And then they should get what we offer, let it be educational program like in previous example, and they should participate in what we offer, and we should organize what we want to offer them. And that's how we go down, down, down on the first stair. And here you cannot see it. There's also 0 stair, which is input. When we count how much finances we need for that and how many other resources we need to input, to put in order that all these stairs from 1 to 7 will work. And last question is how to develop impact model. So there are different questions, and I will, together with you, go through them now. And but you should work on them personally or in your team. If you work on them, they can help you to develop impact model in your organization. Let's look at them. So first set of questions. Of course, you start from the problem. What is the problem? What do you want to solve? What do you want to change um, in society? And you should do your own research on that. Very popular method to do that is problem tree, solution tree. You can also Google guide how to do it, and you will see it is very popular. And you can use this tool when you want to work on the problem. Through this tool, you will also understand the reasons of the problem, and then you will decide at what level of these reasons, because there will be very deep different reasons. You will figure out when you do problem tree that it has a lot of different reasons. Then you should decide at what level do you plan to work, how deep do you want to go. Then you should think of what effect do you want to achieve, and what will be the picture or vision of future situation, that will, how it will look like if you do what you want to do in your program. And then you go down on the level of target group. You will figure out that a lot of people influenced by this problem, but you should take one or two probably target groups. In my experience, it helps if we don't really use this logic to help everyone in the world, but we take one target group and we try to work with this certain target group. But it also good idea to write all the stakeholders that are influenced by this problem. Then on sixth question, you think of how can these target groups be influenced. You try to understand this target group, to empathize them, to maybe to go and talk to them and ask them if they're influenced by this problem or not. And then you think about tools that you can use with this target group. And it should be the most efficient tool for this target group. For instance, if you work with youth, maybe methods that you use, they also should be from the list of methods that youth youngsters they like or school children like. It shouldn't be something boring. Yeah, and after this step, when you defined tools that will better influence target group or target groups, you should think of resources and what resources will be required to effectively influence target groups. When you think of resources, you can also separate them into different clusters, like financial resources, human resources, intellectual resources, in-kind resources, or material resources. And you also can set another group of communicational resources, and just write down everything what will be required in order to implement this program. Then you should ask yourself, or take from this list resources that you already have, like mark them with red color or something like this. And then you think of what skills, knowledge, and other resources need to be developed. Probably you are lacking something in order to implement this program. Very often it happens that your participants, they have quite good potential when they come with their own experience, with their own background, history. You can use also this as resource in your impact modeling process, or even implementation phase of your program. Then you should also think of who else is working on this problem. Probably there are chances to cooperate with someone or to build partnership, or there are competitors that are working in the same field, and they can influence your organization in this or that way, in positive or negative way. You should also consider that. When you think of partners, you should also think through skills or what use you can give them and what use they can give you. And you should also think of that question. It also helps. And last question actually is about a phase when you already did implement this impact model that you planned. How will you know if you succeed actually? What will indicate progress in a few years' time? Which indicators you will use to measure degree of achievement of these goals? And in the very end, after you finished all this process, you look at everything you have written and decide if this is something that your organization can or wants to work on. Do you really agree with analysis of the problems and environment that you have made before? Is it suitable for the mission of your organization, or it is current resources that it is able to use for this impact model, for implementation of this impact model? I think this is the last step of impact modeling. You can do it as a circle every time, but these questions are helping me usually, and in my team when we try to develop new program or project, we use these questions and they help us. And I'm coming to the very end of this video lesson. Thanks for your attention. Today we learned theory of change. I again advise you to read about it more carefully. It has a lot of books and articles. I mean, in this field of theory of change, there are a lot of smaller articles or smaller subjects. And this is quite interesting just to get familiar with all that. And we also talked about impact chain as a parallel model which goes along to theory of change, or which comes out of theory of change, but I'm not sure. And also we talked about modeling impact chain in your own organization, which questions you should ask yourself, and what can be a good help to you to develop impact model. So I wish you good luck. Use impact modeling in your organization and become more sustainable. Bye-bye. Thanks for your attention.